I want to talk a little bit about these. I think they're important bills, even though they're short. The first one is Senate Bill 971, which was sponsored by Senators Obenshain and Senator Carrico. This is a bill that directs this body to develop an I-81 and corridor improvement plan. And really, it kind of goes through a host of issues here, but one directs you to look at the entire length of I-81, identify kind of key segments, and then within each segment identify targeted improvements that could be implemented in there. I think some of the discussion as this bill was being developed is this is not Star Solutions 2.0. And for those of you who don't remember Star Solutions, that was add 2 lanes in each direction the whole way, maybe make them truck only, maybe not, and let's toll everyone. And they were pretty clear that that was not the type of thoughtful process they were looking for. They wanted us to really drill down, look at targeted, pragmatic, implementable, types of solutions. They also did direct this body to look at toll financing options that could help fund these improvements. The bill is specific that it does not want you to evaluate any type of tolling regime that would toll all vehicles using I-81. However, it does say that it would like you to evaluate truck-only tolls or tolls on heavy commercial vehicles and the potential use of express lane tolls on any parts of I-81. So those are really kind of, I think, the two main components of that. There are then some additional components related to the evaluation of truck-only tolls, which is really saying, please look at, any impacts of diversion of trucks off of 81 onto local routes and impacts that may have on communities along the 81 corridor. And the other aspect is saying, please look at whether or not there are strategies or options to minimize the impact of the imposition of any potential truck toll on 81 on local trucks. I do want to remind this body that we did study truck usage on I-81 in excruciating detail during the Kane administration. And what we found at that time was somewhere north of 60% of the trucks that use I-81 start and end their trips somewhere outside of Virginia, which said differently means 60% of all those trucks on I-81 are just passing through. And so I think that was one of the reasons you saw the Assembly look at this potential way, as we have a lot of people driving through Virginia, is creating a very significant impact on this key corridor for the people who use it on a regular basis. I think the other thing is we are asked to look at whether or not there are any potential economic impacts on manufacturing, agricultural, or other industries along that corridor. We are working to try and put together a draft timeline for this plan that we would bring back to this board next month, but it is something that I think will be a big focus for the board, along with the transit reforms that Director Mitchell just finished talking about, as one of what are we going to be dealing with over the coming year. I think we can put this right up there with those transit reforms. I know Secretary Valentine was very happy to see the 81 or see the legislatures take a look at I-81. We were pleased to see the healthy margins by which this bill passed, but this is going to be a big effort moving forward. And I do want to say, looking at truck tolls is going to require a lot of engagement and discussion with that industry and others in that corridor, and I do expect it at times may be loud.
Thank you, Nick. Was there any discussion about rail on the 81 corridor?
Madam Chair, Mr. Connors, I think what the plan asks us to do, and asks really this body to do, is identify improvements that can improve travel on the 81 corridor, that could improve upgrades to Route 11, technology improvements, and potentially rail improvements. I think that are some of the things that this body needs to look at in the coming months as we look at developing the corridor improvement plan.
Thank you.
Other comments? I will say that regardless of what we learn from this, we have to take it back. Go through this board. We'll go back to the General Assembly. There's legislation in place that doesn't exactly prohibit this, but it requires us to go back to the General Assembly. So it would have another cycle through the General Assembly before anything would actually be decided. But the corridor is so important. 42% of all the interstate truck traffic goes down 81. 25% of all accidents involve a truck. So certainly the reliability issue. And as we have stakeholders at the table, as I mentioned to you last month, one of our main focuses is to make sure we're improving 81 for the trucking industry. That we have the right ramps in place, we have lighting, we have parking, we have rest stops along the corridor as well. So we really are inviting everyone to be a part of this. And certainly rail, Norfolk Southern runs parallel to 81 all the way down the quarter. So again, another option for us in looking at it. And I think the commissioners already started looking at kind of beginning some of the preliminary work for us on this particular project.
Approximately a month ago, we started looking at what I'll term, if money fell out of the sky tomorrow, where would we put it and why? So we've already got a leg up in looking at it, looking at scalable size projects, so that if, depending on if tolling is a solution or if additional funds or resources come in, be able to match the size of the project to the location that is needed first, and then scale that back to the available funding limit.
And it was one of the projects we submitted for an infra grant, correct?
I was going to mention, so just a quick reminder for the board, we have 2 pending grants before the United States Department of Transportation. One is for, I believe, $50 or $60 million to combine with other projects going on in I-81 to, I believe, make a host of improvements in the Roanoke area, and the other is for several $100 million to help with the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel expansion, as well as the express lanes network down there. Secretary Child's staff, in the call with Secretary Valentine and myself, has said they hope to have award information in June regarding who might get some of those funds. Just to remind you all, while we were very successful in round 1 and received 21% of the money nationwide, I don't think that's going to happen again. The good news is there's more money this time, so there's $1.7 billion rather than $800 million available for award. But again, it is a very, very competitive grant program, and there's several $1 billion in requests for the 1.7 that's available.
I will say that Deputy Secretary and I were invited to be on a phone call with USDOT this week, and we thought perhaps we had won. That was not the subject of the call.
Secretary?
Yes, sir.
Nick, are the awards based on an objective point system? Or
Madam Secretary, Mr. Garzinski, I would say there are certainly criteria that are outlined in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, which is what they call their grant applications. I would say we do not receive a scorecard like you do on Smart Scale, where we can compare ourselves to all other projects in the Commonwealth, but there certainly are criteria that are used to evaluate projects. And we have met with staff there to have discussions to make sure that we understood, as Virginia, what the federal government was looking for in their applications.